Ladies and gentlemen, tennis fans around the world, welcome back, because what is unfolding in Berlin right now may be one of the most shocking, thrilling, and unforgettable stories of the entire 2026 tennis season. If you're just joining us, get comfortable, because the world of women's tennis is being turned upside down, and it's happening on the historic grass courts of Berlin. The question dominating headlines, social media feeds, and tennis discussions everywhere is simple but explosive. Is Alexandra Eala really about to do it again? After stunning one of the biggest names in the sport, the young Filipina sensation now finds herself standing on the edge of another career-defining moment. And if she can pull this off, the entire tennis world may never look at her the same way again. But before we dive into this incredible quarterfinal showdown, let's take a moment to appreciate just how extraordinary this journey has been. The Berlin Open may officially be a WTA 500 tournament, but make no mistake, this event feels like a grand slam. Every player is fighting to sharpen their game ahead of Wimbledon. Every match carries enormous significance. The grass is unforgiving, the margins are razor-thin, and one mistake can completely change the outcome. Into this pressure-filled environment walked 21-year-old Alexandra Eala, a wildcard entry, a talented prospect, a player respected for her development at the Rafa Nadal Academy, but certainly not someone expected to dominate the headlines of one of the strongest tournaments of the season. Yet that is exactly what she has done. Instead of merely competing against the world's elite, Eala has stormed through the draw and forced the tennis world to pay attention. And it all started with a match that nobody saw coming. In the round of 16, Eala faced one of the most dangerous players in women's tennis, the reigning Wimbledon champion and world number 2, Elena Rybakina. On paper, it looked like an impossible challenge. Rybeckina's game was built for grass courts. Her powerful serve, flat ground strokes, and effortless ability to control rallies made her one of the tournament favorites. Most experts predicted a straightforward victory for the Kazakh star. For the opening stretch of the match, those predictions appeared completely accurate. Rybakina came out firing missiles from the baseline. She dictated play from the very first point, broke Eala's serve early, and quickly established a commanding 4-1 lead in the opening set. Everything suggested the match was heading toward a routine finish, but then something remarkable happened. Instead of panicking, Eala settled down. She adjusted, she adapted, and most importantly, she believed. The young Filipina began reading Rybakina's serve more effectively. She positioned herself better on returns. She absorbed the pace and redirected it with incredible precision. Suddenly, the rallies became competitive. Then they became uncomfortable for Rybakina. Then they became dangerous. What happened next stunned everyone inside the stadium. From 4-1 down, Eala completely transformed the match. She started finding impossible angles. She attacked with confidence. She held serve under pressure and began chipping away at Rybakina's advantage one game at a time. 4-all, 5-all. And then came the breakthrough. With fearless shot-making and composure far beyond her years, Eala broke serve once again and captured the opening set 7-5. The crowd could hardly believe what they were witnessing. Neither could the tennis world, and Eala wasn't finished. Carrying all the momentum into the second set, she continued applying pressure while Rybakina struggled to regain control. Unforced errors began creeping into the world number 2's game, and Eala seized every opportunity. Point by point, game by game, the upset became more real. Eventually, the impossible became reality. Alexandra Eala defeated Elena Rybakina 7-5, 6-4, one of the biggest victories of her career, one of the biggest upsets of the season. And perhaps the moment that officially announced her arrival as a serious contender on the biggest stages in tennis. After the match, Eala admitted she was overwhelmed with emotion. She immediately called her father, still trying to process what had just happened. The entire tennis world was celebrating her breakthrough, but professional tennis never stops. There is no time to relax, no time to admire what you've accomplished, because waiting on the other side of the net was another enormous challenge. Elena Svitolina, and that's where this story becomes even more fascinating. This quarterfinal matchup is much more than a tennis match. It's a battle between generations, a collision between momentum and experience, a showdown between fearless youth and battle-tested resilience. On one side stands Alexandra Eala, the rising star who is playing the best tennis of her life and riding an incredible wave of confidence. On the other side stands Elena Svitolina, one of the toughest competitors in the sport, and a player who has built her career on consistency, intelligence, and relentless determination. Svitolina didn't arrive in the quarterfinals by accident. She earned her place through disciplined, tactical tennis. Her ability to defend, counterattack, and frustrate opponents remains among the best in the world. She has spent years competing against elite players and thriving under pressure. Few players understand momentum better than Svitolina, and few players are better at stopping it. That's what makes this matchup so compelling. Eala enters the court with absolutely nothing to lose. She has already exceeded expectations. She already owns one of the biggest wins of the tournament. She recently captured a grass court title in Birmingham, proving that her success on this surface is no accident. But beating Svitolina presents a completely different challenge. Rybakina overwhelms opponents with power. Svitolina suffocates them with consistency. Against Svitolina, there are no free points. Every rally becomes a test of patience. Every game becomes a battle. Every mistake is punished. For Eala to win, she will need to remain aggressive without becoming reckless. She will need to trust her instincts while maintaining discipline. Most importantly, she must stay mentally strong when the match inevitably becomes uncomfortable. The psychological battle could be every bit as important as the physical one. Can Eala continue playing fearlessly under the weight of growing expectations? Can she maintain the confidence that fueled her stunning victory over Rybakina? Or will Svitolina's experience, tactical awareness, and relentless consistency expose the small weaknesses that naturally come with youth? These are the questions captivating tennis fans across the globe. Because no matter what happens next, this match represents a defining moment. Either we are witnessing the emergence of a new grass court superstar ready to challenge the sport's biggest names, or we are about to see a seasoned veteran remind everyone exactly why experience remains one of the most powerful weapons in tennis. One thing is certain. When Alexandra Eala and Elena Svitolina step onto that grass court in Berlin, the tennis world will be watching. And by the end of the match, we may have a much clearer picture of who is truly ready to make a deep run at Wimbledon. When you examine Alexandra Eala's remarkable rise over the past year, one thing becomes immediately clear: her game is evolving at an incredible pace. You can see the influence of the Rafa Nadal Academy in her discipline, work ethic, and court awareness, but there is also something uniquely her own: a fearless creativity, a willingness to attack when others hesitate. And on grass courts, that combination can be extremely dangerous. As a left-hander, Eala already presents opponents with challenges they don't encounter every day. The angles are different, the spins are different, the patterns are different. Even experienced veterans must make adjustments. Her wide serve on the ad side becomes especially effective on grass, where the ball skids away and forces opponents into uncomfortable positions. But what has truly impressed observers throughout this Berlin run is not simply her serving. It's her maturity, it's her patience, and it's her ability to stay aggressive without losing control. Against Elena Rybakina, Eala showed tremendous discipline from the baseline. She stayed low through the ball, handled the tricky grass court bounce beautifully, and refused to be overwhelmed by the sheer pace coming at her. Instead of merely defending, she redirected power with confidence, changing directions and creating angles that consistently disrupted Rybakina's rhythm. However, facing Elena Svitolina presents an entirely different challenge. Rybakina wants quick points. Svitolina welcomes long ones. Rybakina tries to overpower you. Svitolina tries to outlast you, and that distinction changes everything. The biggest danger for Eala in this matchup isn't necessarily Svitolina's shot-making. It's the temptation to force the issue too early. When players face someone with Svitolina's defensive abilities, frustration often becomes their worst enemy. They start aiming closer to the lines, they swing a little harder, they take bigger risks, they search for winners that simply aren't there, and that's exactly what Svitolina wants. She thrives on impatience, she feeds off poor decisions, she turns small mistakes into major opportunities. If Eala begins chasing spectacular winners from the opening rally, she could quickly find herself piling up unforced errors and losing control of the match. That means her game plan must revolve around calculated aggression. She needs to build points carefully. She needs to trust the patterns that brought her this far. Her heavy forehand can push Svitolina deep behind the baseline, creating openings that may not appear immediately but eventually develop over the course of a rally. Once those opportunities appear, that's when Eala must strike. Not before. Her improved net game could also become a major factor. If she can use slices, drop shots, and well-timed approaches to move Svitolina around the court, she can shorten points and avoid the exhausting marathon rallies that traditionally favor the Ukrainian veteran. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the net, Svitolina's strategy will be centered on one thing: disruption. She understands exactly what Eala is experiencing right now: the confidence, the excitement, the momentum, the adrenaline, and her mission will be to take all of that away. Few players in women's tennis are better at breaking an opponent's rhythm. Svitolina is one of the sport's elite returners, and she will look to neutralize Eala's serve from the very beginning. Instead of allowing the young Filipina to dictate with her first shot, Svitolina will focus on driving deep returns through the middle of the court, forcing Eala into uncomfortable positions and preventing her from taking immediate control of rallies. She will also test Eala's movement relentlessly. Grass courts are beautiful, but they can be brutal. Changing direction isn't easy. Recovering balance isn't easy. One wrong step can leave a player scrambling. Svitolina knows this. Expect her to stretch Eala wide with sharp cross-court angles before suddenly redirecting the ball down the line. Those constant changes of direction can slowly wear down even the most athletic players. The scary part for Eala is that Svitolina doesn't need to hit highlight reel winners to be effective. She simply needs to make every point uncomfortable, every rally difficult, every service game stressful, and that's where her experience becomes so valuable. Her serve may not generate the same explosive power as Rybakina's, but her placement is exceptional. If she consistently lands a high percentage of first serves and targets Eala's body, she can prevent the young Filipina from taking aggressive cuts on the return and keep scoreboard pressure firmly on her opponent. But beyond tactics and technique lies perhaps the most fascinating battle of all: the mental battle. This is where things become truly unpredictable. On one hand, Eala should be playing freely. She has already surpassed expectations. She has already delivered the tournament's biggest headline. Everything from this point forward feels like a bonus. But professional tennis has taught us a harsh lesson over the years. The biggest upset is often followed by the biggest challenge. Time and time again, young players produce the performance of their lives, defeat a superstar, empty every ounce of emotional energy they possess, and then struggle to reproduce that same intensity in the next round. It's called the emotional hangover, and it is very real. The question now is whether Eala can avoid it. Can she reset emotionally? Can she convince herself that the biggest victory of her career is already behind her, and that an even bigger opportunity is still ahead? The comeback against Rybakina required enormous physical and mental energy. After the match, Eala admitted she was still trying to process everything that had happened. But against Svitolina, there is no time for reflection, no time for celebration, no time for distraction, because Svitolina is one of the most mentally disciplined competitors in tennis. If she senses even the slightest emotional drop-off, she will attack it immediately. Her calm demeanor rarely changes. Whether she's winning or losing, her focus remains locked in. That emotional stability has become one of the defining strengths of her career. While Eala rides waves of momentum, Svitolina operates like a strategist solving a puzzle. And right now, Alexandra Eala is the puzzle she intends to solve. Adding another layer to this incredible story is the weight of expectations surrounding the young Filipina. Eala is no longer simply representing herself. She carries the hopes of an entire nation that has embraced her historic run. Every victory creates bigger headlines. Every round generates more attention. Every match attracts more eyes. Support can be a tremendous source of strength, but it can also become pressure. The deeper Eala advances, the brighter the spotlight becomes. She entered Berlin as an underdog. Now she is the center of attention. Every camera follows her. Every microphone seeks her reaction. Every opponent prepares specifically for her. Managing that transition is one of the most difficult challenges any young athlete can face. Meanwhile, Svitolina has her own motivations. She understands that a new generation is arriving fast. Players like Eala are fearless. They respect reputations but aren't intimidated by them. They arrive believing they belong among the elite. For veterans, that reality creates urgency. Svitolina's role in this tournament has become that of a gatekeeper. She represents the standard that every rising star must overcome. Defeat Eala, and she reinforces her position as one of the most dangerous players heading into Wimbledon. lose, and the conversation immediately shifts toward the next generation taking over the sport. That's why every point in this quarterfinal carries enormous significance. It's not just about reaching another round. It's about sending a message. It's about proving a point. It's about defining where each player stands in the future of women's tennis. And then there is the grass itself, the surface that makes this entire story even more unpredictable. As tournaments progress, grass courts change dramatically. The pristine green surface slowly wears away, particularly around the baseline, creating uneven patches and unpredictable bounces. One shot may stay incredibly low, the next may jump unexpectedly. Players must react instantly. There is no time to think, only time to respond. Eala's youth and athleticism could give her an advantage when chasing difficult balls, but Svitolina's years of experience allow her to anticipate situations before they happen. That anticipation often becomes the difference between winning and losing. One final factor could prove crucial. Eala's heavy topspin game, so effective on clay and hard courts, naturally loses some of its bite on grass. The ball doesn't jump as high. Instead, it skids through the surface. To compensate, Eala has done an excellent job flattening her strokes and driving through the court. But that adjustment demands perfect timing. Even the slightest miscalculation can send a shot long or into the net. Against a player as consistent as Svitolina, those tiny margins become enormous. And that is exactly why this quarterfinal has become one of the most anticipated matches of the season. Two completely different styles, two completely different journeys, one unforgettable opportunity, and only one player can continue the dream. One aspect of grass court tennis that often gets overlooked is the slice backhand. Many casual fans view it as a defensive shot, something players use simply to stay alive in a rally. But at the highest level, the slice can be one of the most dangerous weapons on the court. A perfectly executed slice doesn't sit up for an opponent. It stays low, skids through the grass, and forces players to dig the ball up from ankle height. On this surface, that can completely disrupt timing and rhythm. And that is where Elena Svitolina becomes especially dangerous. Her slice backhand is not just effective, it is strategic. She uses it to break rhythm, change pace, and force opponents into uncomfortable positions. Instead of allowing players to swing freely, she drags them into awkward, low-contact situations where they must generate their own pace. For Alexandra Eala, that means discipline will be critical. She must stay low throughout the match. Her footwork has to remain sharp. Her knees must stay bent, even deep into long rallies. The moment she starts standing upright or becomes lazy with her movement, Svitolina's slice can immediately take control of the point. At the same time, Eala's own slice will face a serious examination. Whenever she is stretched wide or pushed into a defensive position, she will need to produce quality slices that stay low and deep. Any floating ball that sits up in the middle of the court will be an invitation for Svitolina to step in and attack. These are the tiny details that often determine major matches, not the spectacular winners, not the highlight reel moments, but the subtle tactical exchanges that unfold point after point. That is what makes this matchup so fascinating. It is a chess match played at incredible speed on a surface that constantly tests balance, timing, and concentration. As we begin to step back and look at the bigger picture, it becomes clear that this entire Berlin Open story represents something much larger than a single quarterfinal. Regardless of what happens between Alexandra Eala and Elena Svitolina, the fact that a 21-year-old wildcard has become the center of attention at one of the strongest tournaments of the season says everything about the current state of women's tennis. The game has never been deeper. Competition has never been fiercer, and the gap between established stars and rising challengers continues to shrink. The era of predictable draws and guaranteed semifinalists is fading away. Today's WTA landscape is filled with dangerous players capable of producing extraordinary performances on any given day. Alexandra Eala's stunning victory over Elena Rybakina is the perfect example. It reminds us that rankings don't win matches. Reputations don't win matches. Past achievements don't win matches. When players walk onto the court, everything starts at zero. Every point must be earned. Every game must be fought for. Every victory must be deserved. For Eala, this run in Berlin represents the payoff for years of sacrifice and relentless dedication. Leaving home at a young age, training at the Rafa Nadal Academy, grinding through low-level tournaments, battling through setbacks and disappointments. Every step of that journey has led to moments like these. The victory over Rybakina could become one of those career-changing milestones that athletes remember forever, not simply because of the result, but because of what it teaches. It proves that she belongs. It proves that her game can stand toe-to-toe with the very best players in the world. And perhaps most importantly, it proves that she can thrive under pressure. That kind of confidence cannot be taught, it cannot be manufactured, it can only be earned. And once a player gains that belief, they become incredibly dangerous. Whether Eala defeats Svitolina or not, she has already gained invaluable experience. She is learning how to manage emotions after a major upset. She is learning how to handle increased expectations. She is learning what it takes to compete against different styles on one of tennis's most demanding surfaces. Those lessons will stay with her long after Berlin is over. Her rise is also important for the sport itself. She is attracting new fans. She is inspiring young athletes throughout Asia. She is helping expand tennis into markets and communities that dream of producing their own champions. Her success is proof that talent can emerge from anywhere and that the future of women's tennis is incredibly diverse, exciting, and unpredictable. On the other side of this story stands Elena Svitolina. While rising stars often generate headlines, players like Svitolina provide the foundation upon which the sport is built. Her professionalism, her resilience, her tactical intelligence, her consistency. These qualities have allowed her to remain a major force for years despite constant challenges from younger generations. If she successfully navigates this quarterfinal and halts Eala's momentum, it will serve as another reminder that experience remains one of the most powerful weapons in professional tennis. Veteran players understand pressure, they understand momentum swings, and they understand how to survive difficult moments. A victory for Svitolina would not simply be another win. It would be a masterclass in patience, discipline, and competitive maturity. Looking beyond Berlin, the implications of this match stretch all the way to Wimbledon. The most prestigious tournament in tennis is rapidly approaching, and what happens here could dramatically influence expectations heading into London. If Eala continues this remarkable run and finds a way to get past Svitolina, she will arrive at Wimbledon carrying enormous momentum and confidence. Suddenly, she won't be viewed as a promising prospect. She'll be viewed as a legitimate threat, a dangerous floater, the kind of player top seeds desperately hope to avoid in their section of the draw. She has already demonstrated that her left-handed game translates beautifully to grass. Her serve is becoming increasingly effective. Her movement continues to improve, and her mental toughness has impressed everyone watching. Every Wimbledon season seems to produce one player who catches fire and turns the tournament upside down. Based on everything we've witnessed in Berlin, Alexandra Eala has the potential to become that player. But before thoughts shift to Wimbledon, there is still business to handle in Germany. And that brings us back to the electric atmosphere inside Berlin's historic stadium. This quarterfinal contains everything that makes tennis so captivating. A fearless young star chasing a dream, a respected veteran defending her status, power against precision, momentum against experience, risk against discipline. There are no teammates to rely on, no substitutions, no timeouts, no place to hide. Just two athletes standing across the net, solving problems in real time under immense physical and mental pressure. Will Alexandra Eala shock Elena Svitolina? Will this quarterfinal become another unforgettable chapter in her incredible journey? The answers are unfolding point by point and rally by rally, but one thing is already certain. Alexandra Eala has announced herself to the tennis world. She has demonstrated extraordinary talent. She has delivered one of the defining stories of the 2026 season. And regardless of what happens next, she has already proven that she belongs on the biggest stages in the sport. Everything from this point forward is simply another chapter in what is becoming an extraordinary tennis story. Thank you so much for joining me for this in-depth breakdown of the Berlin Open and the remarkable rise of Alexandra Eala. Now I want to hear from you. Do you believe Eala has what it takes to defeat Elena Svitolina? Was her victory over Elena Rybakina the most impressive performance we've seen this season? And just how far do you think she can go when Wimbledon begins? Share your thoughts below and join the conversation. If you enjoyed this analysis and want more deep dives into the biggest stories in tennis, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss future coverage. We'll be following every step of Alexandra Eala's journey, every twist in Svitolina's campaign, and every major storyline on the road to Wimbledon. Until next time, keep enjoying this incredible sport, appreciate the greatness unfolding before our eyes, and never underestimate the magic that can happen when opportunity meets belief. Stay safe, stay passionate, and I'll see you in the next video.